Our RSA project is on Dillard's section China. Our thesis is Dillard's attention to sense of place, biographical content, as well as the use of symbols in China connect to her overall purpose of exploring the distinction of individuals within human existence and the fool's errand of immortality.
Dillard's use of China as a symbol is very important to developing her overall purpose within the China sections in her novel for the time being. On page 47, Dillard states, there are 1,198,500,000 people alive in China. And then she asks readers to compare themselves, single individuals, to the idea of over 1 billion people. Dillard then closes this idea with Litote. Nothing to it. To set up her commentary on individualism, Dillard first exposes readers to the sheer vastness of the world and plants a feeling of insignificance in readers. It can be seen that Dillard's choice of using China, the largest populated country on Earth, is to express the reality that every individual is part of a massive collective group. To further develop the idea of collectivism among humanity, Dillard also creates the motif of man and earth. Within telling her own personal anecdotes of her time in China, Dillard claims, on page 46, that the Chinese Empire grew from the lowest soil. Dillard creates an irony, in which the majority of people would expect to hear that China was raised by the people themselves. However, Dillard contrasts this idea with the earth itself creating the Chinese Empire. The collective mass all come from the same beginnings, the earth. However, Dillard reveals the individuality within the population in the same motif of man and earth. In her accounts of the terracotta soldiers, Dillard begins to personify the soldiers as they are being excavated from the earth. On page 15, Dillard describes it as if the earth was yielding these bodies, these clay soldiers. Dillard personifies them as a group of living beings that are being birthed from the ground. Each terracotta soldier is one of a kind, no two look alike, and this reveals Dillard's overall purpose, that despite everyone is a part of the massive collection of life on Earth, everyone is also an individual that is unique and can impact the world.
To further describe individual significance versus a significant individual, I will be discussing the actions of Teilhard. His individual actions were significant in that they were positive and benefited the whole of mankind. Teilhard was a soldier. He believed that God calls people to build and divinize the world, to aid God in redemption. He rescued the wounded from the front and thought of it as God's work. He felt his actions were significant because he was helping God to mold the world. He was confident in his individual actions just as he was confident in his individual significance. Teilhard was a paleontologist and Jesuit priest, too. When he began researching and teaching evolution, the church forbade his ideas and exiled him. He kept strong, although every year he applied to publish his work. Every year, Rome refused. Teilhard himself said he was stifled for 15 years in this subhuman atmosphere. He was sure that Rome was mankind's best hope. Though it was obvious Rome would not concede, Teilhard pursued what he felt was important and what was right. It did not matter that all his effort might be for naught, even if he was allowed to publish his books. In essence, Teilhard's individual thinking from the church allowed man to explore and find evidence of evolution. Teilhard was completely sure in his spiritual importance to God and his worldly importance. This surety enabled him to actually become significant in our history. In his eyes, all that is really worthwhile is action, which he proved in his lifetime.
In order to develop the negative aspects of individuality, Dillard includes the personal histories of Chinese figures who directly foiled Teilhard. Through this juxtaposition, Dillard stresses the important aspects of individuality in relation to working as a synchronized group and serving the overall betterment of humanity. The men of China, Emperor Qin and Chairman Mao, both fixated selfishly on their own path and will, believing they were above others. This is shown through Qin's attempt to preserve his memory in the afterlife by building thousands of soldiers to guard his tomb at the tender age of 13. However, this self-importance ultimately led to his downfall, as he believed to be above the great equalizer of death. In one instance, Qin sent scholars to search for a Taoist master who had foiled death by eating a flower. This ridiculous quest for immortality continues as Chin becomes paranoid in his old age. This is true of Mao as well, who used Novocaine injections to cheat death, but eventually went mad with paranoia convinced someone had poisoned one of his swimming pools. Dillard recognizes this innate human fear of death and juxtaposes it with the inevitable disintegration of memory over time shown through her supposed ignorance while visiting some emperor's tomb. This litotes creates irony and solidifies the pointlessness of an individual attempting to defy nature and trying to create a legacy for him or herself. In conclusion, Dillard includes a section of China in order to present the interlocking relationship that all humans share, and show that though we may be a collective mass, our individuality is necessary to progress and serve humanity.